Welcome to another real-time strategy top 10 video. Before I go any further with this video, I just want you to know that there is a giveaway, and if you want to know how to get the giveaway, it's at the end of this video. So keep an eye out, keep an ear out, and stay until the end. You could win something very cool. Thank you for finding and clicking on this video. In this list, I'm going to describe my personal top 10 worst factions in Total War Warhammer 2. This list is not based on the meta, statistics, or factions with the highest multiplayer win rate. This list is about my personal worst factions. The main deciding factor for my picks in this list is how much I don't enjoy playing the factions in question first and foremost. I also consider how the developers' decisions to try to make the factions more unique in their playstyles do not work. This list is very individual, so your lists will definitely differ, and you will most likely not agree with my picks. But please share your own lists below. This list is just my opinion and does not belittle yours in any way. Check out my top 10 best factions list in the description below. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button below. I upload daily weekday gameplay videos and discuss the lore and history of the world of Warhammer Fantasy. If you enjoy, please like and let me know. Starting off this list is an odd green skin faction with a love of dance. Number 10. The Bloody Handz. At number 10 is the Bloody Handz faction. The only reason this one is number 10 is because they were just kind of added without much thought. I still do enjoy playing them, and their starting lord with his buffs are fun, but I would have liked to see more specific faction events, preferred territories and enemies. They should excel and do better in arid desert environments, gain leadership buffs for more units of boys surrounding each other, and gain frenzy when seeing dwarves. They should not be able to recruit goblins and only have savage orcs, no normal armoured units. A few tweaks and they would disappear off this list, but this is a very minor complaint to an otherwise fine faction. Nothing special, just fine. They just feel like a bit of an afterthought, but one that is still fun to play for me. So they were a necessary number 10. Number 9. Clan Morrs Skaven. Skaven got to my number 2 favourite factions in my top 10 favourite factions video. But Clan Morrs, especially in the Mortal Empires campaign, gets to number 9 of the worst factions. Queek is hands down my favourite Warhammer Fantasy character of all time. If you ever get the chance, find and read the 3rd book of the End Times trilogy, or the Horned Rat subbook. It follows Queek and his invasion and eventual destruction of the dwarves of the 8 Peaks. He is a badass, a warrior, and a leader who literally took on Belegar and his entire honour guard on his own with only minor injuries. That's a very tough Skaven. But in the game, his dueling prowess isn't really on par to his fantasy character. He should be one of the best lord killers in the game, but he simply isn't, and that's partly due to his leadership. If he is attacking an enemy lord, he should gain Unbreakable until his health is under 200, then he flees. His starting position doesn't really help either, in either campaigns. The Mortal Empires campaign is the hardest start in the game, and the Eye of Vortex campaign doesn't really make a whole lot of sense lore-wise. I understand his position for Mortal Empires, because of the 8 Peaks, but he should start in Skavenblight. Someone should. He only gets to number 9 because he is still fun to play, but his starting positions don't make a whole lot of sense, and his personal stats in combat aren't what they should be. Number 8. Wintertooth. Throg's Trolls. That's basically the difference between Wulfric and Throg. Now don't get me wrong, I love Throg. This was a very hard pick because I do love playing as him. I just think there could have been a bit more of a difference between the factions. Throg buffs any trolls in his army, making them stand around in a fight for more than 5 seconds. But I would have liked them to have been severely different. I've never understood why Throg can recruit marauders. He should be purely monster faction. His front line should be trolls, backed up with giants and skinwolves and other beasties. It would be really interesting to try and play around with something like this. You can do this on your own without the game limitations however, which is why Throg is only number 8. But if this was made specifically with that in mind, then Creative Assembly could lower the cost of the units, the buildings making them, and perhaps limited his army cap to 10 to 12 units instead of 20 to balance him out a bit. But because he is so much fun to play, he made it lower on my list. Number 7. Warherd of the Shadowgave. A once human baby who was left in the forest by his parents and taken in by the Beastmen tribe believing he is a gift from the gods, he's certainly not a gift from the gods in the game. A Beastman Lord that only stays wounded for one turn and buffs Chaos Spawn units. He's pretty much immortal, just being resurrected over and over again by the Chaos Gods. He is also the epitome of corruption, so his faction abilities actually link well with his lore and really bridges the gap between the two mediums. So why is he number 7 on the worst factions list? Simply because of the Chaos Spawn faction focus. He makes Minotaurs 40% more expensive to upkeep, while making Chaos Spawn 40% cheaper. Which means that you naturally won't take as many, if any, Minotaurs into battle. I love Minotaurs. I feel they are the best of the Beastmen's most devastating unit, with 3 separate types giving them lots of variation. There's only one type of Chaos Spawn. This pick is a selfish one, because overall he is a solid pick with thematic faction abilities. I just won't ever play as him because I love Minotaurs too much. And because these lists are not only based on how well the factions are linked to their lore, but also my personal play factors, they hit number 7 due to me never picking the faction over normal Beastmen due to the cost of fielding Minotaurs. Number 6. Bretonnia. A faction that I do not enjoy as much as I would like, and one that is probably the first one people might get a bit annoyed about. But the main reason why Bretonnia is at number 6 is because of their food mechanic. It simply makes no sense and doesn't work. I understand that majority of Bretonnia's forces comprise of peasants forced into conscription. Why doesn't the Empire follow a similar mechanic? It makes expanding as Bretonnia especially slow, and seeming as the units that are linked to this mechanic in early game are worse than goblins, it makes them really frustrating to play in the early on. They only get interesting to play in the late game with their wide array of knights, spells and interesting units. Early on, however, get used to seeing peasants as your army who would run from a unit of snotlings if they could. They get to number 6 on my list because I just never enjoy playing as them, or even fighting against them. I don't particularly find their unit models outstanding, and some are outright goofy. They fit their lore and their chivalry mechanic, but it just doesn't translate well into the game. Some decisions you make that are completely understandable are counted as unchivalrous. How is it unchivalrous executing undead? Makes no sense. These reasons are why they are my number 6. Number 5. Cult of Pleasure. Landing in the middle of my list is Morathi herself. Dark Elves reached number 5 in my top 5 best factions, but the Cult of Pleasure reaches my top 5 worst. This is all down to her special attributes. She spreads chaos corruption, which is annoying to say the least, and that's it. That's Morathi's special attribute, or the one that affects her campaign gameplay the most. The 20 plus relations to other Dark Elves has no real big impact to the wider game, and the cost reduction of hero actions is a pretty lame starting ability. It's a lost opportunity to me personally. Morathi is incredibly influential in the fantasy world. She should have a more powerful skill than those. Also, her faction apart from those buffs is no different to the Dark Elves. Unlike Skarsnik's side faction where you are forced to play a certain way, with units you normally wouldn't focus on, Morathi is not limited in her selection of units. The Hag Queen should focus more on Witch Elves, give massive buffs to them just like Skarsnik's goblins, and then let the Hag sorceresses start on a higher level. I would always pick Malekith over Morathi in a campaign. Even his magic is comparable to hers, so there is no real reason why she should be picked over him. A lost opportunity is why this faction is number 5. Number 4. High Elves. A controversial pick, I'm sure, but High Elves are just boring. They are too easy, too bland, and too generic. The units that really differentiate their race from stereotypical Tolkien labelling aren't included, and their lore that really gives them more character, backstory, and differences to other elves in fantasy worlds isn't present nearly as much as it should be. The models, again, are incredibly detailed, and the designers and 3D artists have done an incredible job bringing the faction to life. But it's as if the faction has lost something along the way for me personally. The Dark Elves are full of character and epitomise their role in the world. Arguably, the High Elves also do this, showing their prowess in trade and military, but again, something is too uniform to them, where they should be this bitter spark that, when ignited, is intimidating and feverish. All of this paired with the fact that I find their gameplay a bit boring, compared to other races, contributes as to why they are my number 4 on this list. Number 3. Clan Angrund. Now this one is specific to Clan Angrund, not to the Dwarven faction in general. If you want to see my opinion on the Dwarves, then check out my top 10 best factions list. However, Clan Angrund is not a good faction in my opinion. It was added alongside the Crooked Moon faction. Clan Angrund, however, are crippled by an unfair public order debuff and limitations in where they can expand. They are parked right next to the Wood Elves, who have a tendency to get a bit stabby, with border princes to the south and goblins to the north, and other dwarves to the east, who also tend to get a bit stabby. They are a very tough economic start, but their upkeep is doubled because they aren't in Carrick 8 peaks. Dwarves are expensive to upkeep, even on a normal campaign, so this severely cripples any chances of fielding a strong army. This upkeep and public order debuff is only resolved once you take back the peaks, but doing so is a real challenge, especially if you can only afford one army and have to march across the Badlands. So in my opinion, playing as them is just a struggle, and not a fun challenge. This may have been updated since I tried playing them last, but since then I have not even tried playing as them. It's a weak addition as a faction, with no real changes or unique units, just some different coloured dwarves with ghost agents. They definitely deserve my number 3 spot. Number 2. Vampire Counts. I just don't get along with Vampire Counts. I'm not sure why, but I have never really fully enjoyed playing as them. Unlike the Tomb Kings, their undead frontline just seems overtly generic to me. I feel they have too many lords for a single faction, none of which really stand out from each other, and their faction-specific events and abilities don't really push the boat out in terms of creativity. As standard of the series, their characters and unit models are exceptional, but there's something dull about them. Their lore isn't represented in the game very well either. They should be a massive threat to the world, just as the Chaos faction is. There should be this mysterious barrier around Sylvania that Balthazar Gelt created to stop their corruption expanding. If there was some form of side quest to help resurrect Nagash and collect his artifacts to start bringing the end times and remove this barrier so their corruption and dead can pour forth from Sylvania, much like the Chaos Stirs and Chaos Invasion events, they would feel more important and better fit their lore and backstory. I don't pick vampire counts to play as for fun, and that's a real shame, and they are one of my worst factions for all these reasons. Number 1. Warriors of Chaos. In my hundreds of hours of playtime in both games, I have maybe clocked under 2 hours in a Chaos campaign. Total. Chaos I find are just not fun to play. I do not enjoy their starting position or their faction attributes. I don't think the game does a good job enough of really making it feel like the end times when they invade from the north playing against them, and worst of all, they are so generic. There is a lot missing from Chaos which really affects their faction. The entire aspect of the four gods isn't even in the game in any capacity. You can't choose an allegiance, and you can't field demonic units, and there are no representatives of the four Chaos gods other than the names of the sorcerers, slightly. From a lore perspective, it's a huge chunk missing. From a gameplay perspective, it's an even bigger chunk missing that separates Chaos from being generic bad men in heavy armour to an army that actually represents Chaos. The key is in the name, and the faction currently does not embody any of the chaotic aspects it should. It's disappointing, and it seriously needs fleshing out, which is why it peaked my worst factions list. It needs work badly, and it currently gets outshined by every other faction in both the game from a gameplay perspective and from the view of a Warhammer Fantasy player who enjoyed the incredible lore of the faction, which is in no way represented in the game, other than the bad man come down from the north and tried to kill everything. No reason why or how they achieved this. Just please, give the faction the love it needs. And that's my list. Thank you for watching and please subscribe for more videos. Now, time for a giveaway before you guys disappear into the ethers of some other random internet video. I recently hit 3,000 subscribers, which I am incredibly grateful for. Thank you all who are watching this who made that happen, and that means you, because you stuck around until the end and listened. To give back, I want to do something special. I am going to give away a hand-painted Queek Headtaker model that I will personally paint myself. It should look good because I nearly got a job in the official Warhammer Army Painters team. I will send this model anywhere in the world and will leave you a little personalised note. All you need to do to win this unique prize is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment down below on who your favourite Warhammer Fantasy character is and why. I thought painting a model of Queek is perfect as he is my personal favourite, so I'd love to hear your guys' favourites. I'll be picking my favourite comment out of the lot. The competition will close on the 1st of June 2018, so sorry whoever is watching this in the future, it's probably closed by now. I will message the chosen winner and we can go from there. Thank you all again for watching and I hope to see your names grace the comment sections below very soon.